Hey, good evening, everybody. It is December. I have no idea how it got to be December already, but it definitely got to be December somehow. So I've got my hot tea here. We're going to do the live Q&A with the Patreon community. And I am streaming a kind of a bird's eye view in for people on TikTok that they can watch in as well, but it will not be recorded on TikTok. So if you are just now tuning in, this Q&A live is always brought every month by the Patreon community. So the questions that we'll be answering, I write down from the Patreon group, or many of them will actually email me or send me a text or a private message or whatever. So I have kind of gathered those 8 or 10 questions together, and we'll kind of go through those one by one. Before we jump into the Q&A, I do want to kind of hit on the Patreon schedule coming up, because there's going to be a really busy month, and we're going to really try and do things more weekdays in December, because I know weekends are filled with a lot of family activities and that sort of thing. So Patreon schedule this coming Tuesday, or Monday and Tuesday. There are some patrons that are here in person, so they're going to be attending the website and social media training for farms, heads, and small businesses on Tuesday, December 12th. That one is going to be a composting and soil building PDF. So just different ways that you can do composting. There are many, many ways, and some ways that you can kind of adjust those to a better fit for your own particular site and your own uses and that sort of thing. Wednesday, the 13th, will be a fruit tree pruning demo. So that one is kind of cool. I did one up in Michigan, and then I'm also going to do a live one that week on some trees in Florida, and I'll let you know the day and time of those. December 18th is going to be a video on 5 different ways to prepare land. So if you're getting ready to put in a vegetable garden, if you're getting ready to put in some new fruit trees, new berry bushes, whatever, this will be 5 ways to do that. And that's for the basic and abundance members on Patreon. Wednesday, December 20th, we'll do the poll that will determine the classes that are offered next month. And then on the 28th, we're actually going to do a property spotlight on my family's homestead up in Michigan. So those of you that are from USDA zones 3 through 8, you'll be able to see kind of what a homestead looks like. I'll give you a tour of our family wood burning stove, because it's freaking awesome. Tell you a little bit of how it works and how much wood we use and how, we get the family house ready. Because in Michigan, my parents are still, they're in their 60s. And they chop wood to solely heat from wood all winter long, which I think is amazing for anybody. So I'm just so proud of my parents that they still do this. They put in a lot of work to be able to have an amazing heat source during those cold, crazy winter months. So that's going to be the plan for the next couple weeks for those that are in the Patreon community. So again, we're going to jump into the live Q&A. The way that we do this every month, if you are watching this as a recording, obviously you're not going to be asking questions. I'll always hit the patron questions first. So I'll go through the 6 or 8 of the patron questions. And then if there is time at the end, then I'll take some questions just from the chat. So you are welcome to dialogue in the chat window on the side. I did turn on the restriction for its subscribers only that are YouTube subscribers. So patrons, you should be able to do that as well in the chat. To be able to ask those questions. So let's go ahead and jump in. Before I do the Q&A, I always want to hit on some of my top things that I'm doing every single month in the garden, in the food forest. And I've lived all over. So I've lived in Michigan and Kansas City and Missouri, down here in Central Florida. And so growing zones are so, so important. What we're doing this time of year in Florida is not what's happening in the northern places. Thanks for the cool hat on TikTok, by the way. Not what they're doing in the northern places by any means. In the northern climates, their tasks are very different. So I want to jump in. I'm going to take zones 3 through 8 first and just talk a little bit of, what are the top 3 things that I would be doing if I were living in USDA zones 3 through 8. So number 1, first and foremost, plant bulbs. I'm talking all of the Dutch bulbs, daffodils, alliums are one of my favorite. They get these massive softball grapefruit sized flowers that are usually pink or purple or white or green. And they are gorgeous. And they just supply so much good nectar at a really challenging time of year for those native pollinators or honeybees. So I think the alliums are one of my absolute favorite. Daffodils, muscari, the crocus family. How many should you plant? More. I mean, when I lived in Kansas City, I would literally go anytime I saw them on sale at, big box stores or at a nursery, I just bought all of them and just start putting them in the ground. And every year I just planted more. And by the end of 3, 4, 5, or for me, 15 years, I had a lot of spring bulbs. I mean, it looked like Martha Stewart's garden in the backyard, and it was always so enjoyable. But if you don't plant them in the winter, you're not going to be enjoying it come the springtime. So this is the time of year to thaw, start putting some bulbs in the ground. Just always have some on hand, so that way you're ready just to throw those bulbs in the ground. The second thing that I would be doing in the northern climates is feeding wild songbirds. This is the time of year when those songbirds are coming in. They're eating the egg sacs and the larvae of a lot of the pests that are going to be bothering your garden in the springtime. So if you want to get on the front end of insect control, winter is the time to be feeding the birds. Now, honestly, you can be doing this in any USDA zone right now. I feed wild songbirds year round because they are the best insect control. The average little tiny songbird is about 200 to 300 bugs a day. 200 to 300 bugs. Can you imagine going through and picking 200 to 300 caterpillars off of your plants? Let them do the job for you. So for me, winter is the time to hit it really hard. I do a lot of suet cakes. The little square things are like $1.50 or $2 if you go to Tractor Supply Company. I get the higher protein ones because it's better for the birds. Also a great boredom buster for chickens or quail. So that's going to bring in a lot of your woodpeckers. So for me personally, I like a mess blend. I get one either at Wild Birds Unlimited, which is nationwide. That's my favorite place. Or if I don't have the time and the ability to go and do that, there is a no mess blend like at Tractor Supply Company or whatever. The reason I like that is it doesn't leave sunflower husks and shells all around the bird feeder. It's just cleaner. So, and honestly, why would I pay for shells when I can pay a little bit more and get all seed that is going to be eaten and enjoyed by the birds? So wild songbirds feeding. You can sing with the songbirds if you want to as well. So wild songbird feeding, absolutely hit it hard in the winter months. For me, in my little golf cart or my ATV that I drive around the farm, I almost always have a bag of bird seed, and I'll click my tongue and set it on top of fence posts or on some logs, and just continually bring those wild songbirds in because they are adding fertilizer to your garden, your yard, your food forest, their insect control. And honestly, there's a couple really interesting studies about bird song and the solfeggio frequency and how that interacts with bacteria in the soil. So this university in Japan studied that the combination of the two of those, the wild bird song and bacteria together, probiotics, when those were combined in the garden, it caused the stomata of the plant to open up faster and longer than without the bacteria and the bird song. And so it increases your chance of fruiting. And so there is some actually good study. It's not just woo-woo science behind it. If you want to read that study, SCD Probiotics, based out of Missouri, does have some links to those studies with the write-ups and the abstracts that they have published on their website, which I think is fantastic. And along that same note, winter, I'm always building birdhouses. I love getting them in the wintertime because then I'm ready to rock when spring comes, when they're going to be needing those houses in the spring. I want the birdhouses in place. So one of my personal favorite things to do in the winter months is when I go home to visit my family in Michigan, I'll always spend time in the wood shop with my grandpa. And so we're building birdhouses, bat boxes, that sort of thing to put around the food forest and around the garden. Because again, that is enjoyment, it's beauty, it's wonder, it's fertilization from their little droppings they're leaving all over. And it's great insect control. So that's the thing I'd be doing in USDA zones 3 through 8. Third thing I'd be doing right now in growing zones 3 through 8 is focusing on animal health, specifically chickens, ducks, quail, that sort of thing. Winter is always a very hard time. So a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is ventilation. And I know that sounds weird because the thought process when it comes to humans is we want to button down the hatches. We don't want any draft, any airflow in our house coming in from outside. In the animal world, it is the opposite. Their little bodies are absolute heat machines. They're little tiny furnaces. And so if you were to button down your chicken coop where there's no airflow, what happens is that body heat, as it increases, hits that cold air that's going to be in the coop, and it causes condensation, which is what causes frostbite. So if you button down your coop to where there is no airflow and it gets below freezing, you're actually not helping your birds. You're actually hurting them because that airflow keeps that condensation level really low in those chicken coops, duck houses, or quail hutches. So ventilation, super important. Now, you don't want the north wind, blowing into those chicken coops, but you do want airflow so it stays dry and it's not going to be humid in those spaces. Other ways that I would increase temperature: never, ever, ever use a heat lamp in a chicken coop. I don't care if it's a radiant heat, the red heat, the whatever heat. Don't do it. Do not do it. They are not made for that purpose, and they're not made well. I have almost a dozen friends now that have literally were very careful and bought the right ones and yada, 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 burned down their chicken coop. And one of them built or burned down about $175,000 barn. So I would never, ever use them. Birds don't need a heat lamp. They are not humans. Their body does the heating for them. So let nature run its course. These animals are fearfully and wonderfully made, and they are equipped to handle this. So the way to do that is, instead of focusing on, securing the coop and no airflow and putting a heater in there and a lamp and whatever. No, they don't need any of that. They need to rest, focus on their bodies. So instead, give them food that's going to increase that body temperature. So high proteins, some healthy fats. So those suet cakes are going to be really good. And I hate to say it, even corn, if you can get some non-GMO corn, when that digests in their body, that does increase body temperature. I'm not doing that on a regular basis, but on those really cold nights, the day before, I will add a little of non-GMO corn to their feed to help increase their body temperature. Now, again, that's not a regular part of my feeding regimen, but it does help increase their body temperature. The last thing for USDA zones 3 through 8 for your animals is really think about water, not just the temperature of the water, though you do want to have a thawing plan. And I see someone just suggested microgreens or moringa. Heckin' yeah. Moringa has a way high protein content, 27% digestible proteins and soluble proteins that are going to be amazing for helping increase that body temp. However, moringa does go dormant this time of year, so it's a little bit harder to find because it is starting to die off. So as far as the water goes, you do have to keep water fresh, and it does need to be thawed. Obviously, your chickens are not going to be walking around like us with an ice cube in our mouth. They're just not going to do that. So you can do the heated thing underneath. I don't like doing that because I'm cheap. I don't want to run electricity. So what I always did when I lived in Missouri is I had one water that was in the garage that was semi-heated, just enough for it to thaw out. And then I had one that was out in the coop. And in the morning, I would switch it out. And at night, I would switch it out again. And it would always thaw out during the daytime. And that was how I managed having the fresh water. I tried the thing where you put salt water in the water bottle and you put it in. That rubbish doesn't work. That is an internet lie. I've never once had that work for me ever. So those are a couple things to think about. Also, in the winter is a great time to add things that are supplements into the water for your animals. So I personally use the Bio Livestock by SCD Probiotics. That link is in the link tree. Or you can find it in my bio. The other thing that I would use is apple cider vinegar. It's going to give a little bit of those probiotics as well. Colloidal silver is a really good one. Garlic, crush the garlic first, let it sit in the air because that increases the ability of the nutrients almost 100-fold. So garlic is really good. Dried herbs you can actually put in the water: rosemary, thyme, oregano. of herbs. Those are all great to put in the chicken's water, and obviously fresh water. So you're not going to ever want to use like salt water or alkaline water. Their bodies are not meant for that. So that is USDA zones 3 through 8. So those are the top 3 things that I would be focusing on if I were in those USDA zones. So let's get to zones 9 through 11. So that's where I'm at, Central Florida. But this is true if you're in California, if you're in Texas, whatever. So number 1, annual vegetables. It is finally the perfect annual vegetable season. My tomatoes, y'all, they look so good. I was literally walking around today going, my mouth is salivating. My beard is itching. I'm just ready to get in those tomatoes. They're still green, so I'm not there yet. But man, I am so excited about tomato season. So that's the thing right now. Now, remember, if you are in USDA zones 9 through 11, there are still things that you can plant by seed right now. I'm getting ready tomorrow to do quite a few types of radishes. I got some really funky, cool ones that are on from Etsy. So if you're interested in those, I can send links to you later. Swiss chard, rainbow chard, greens, Florida mustard, Minzuna, all the greens, all the salad stuff are going in the ground right now. Now, in USDA zones 9 through 11 right now, remember, you should be fertilizing or soil amending in your annual vegetable garden. It's a no-no in the food forest right now. We don't want to be pushing the new growth. Have I ever had a pineapple tomato? No, I haven't. I need to look up that link because I really want a pineapple tomato. My favorite tomato is called a blush tomato. I got my first ones from Baker Creek Seeds, and I have seed saved those every year, and I love the blush tomato. It is so stinking sweet and like watermelon shaped, really, really yummy. So back to fertilizing in your annual vegetable bed. I'd be doing bone meal, I'd be doing blood meal, I'd be doing feather meal. Stick with the directions and the recommended dosage that's on the package. Depending on how they dehydrated it or freeze dried it, the application may be slightly different. So always read the instructions. I do like one every other week. I'm just going to add a little bit, and I never do it at the full dosage. I just cut it back a little bit, add a little bit more. The other thing you can do right now is a fish emulsion or a sea kelp foliar spray is really good for annual vegetables. Now, obviously, you're not going to be harvesting your greens and eating them after a fish emulsion spray. So make sure you wait a couple days, wait for a rain, wash your veggies really good before you do that. If you want more ideas on fertilization methods, if you are in the Patreon group, the link for that is also in the link tree in the bio. The PDF and the class last month was on 10 different types of fertilization that is not a chemical, not a synthetic, but is actually soil building, way beyond organic methods of building your soil. Second thing I'd be doing in USDA zones 9 through 11 is winter dormant planting. I love planting some things in the winter. Now, in USDA zones 9 through 11, we are not planting mangoes. We are not doing strawberry tree. We're not doing soursop or sugar apple or avocados. Save those until springtime. Save them until spring. I always do those around Easter so they can really root in really well. So just kind of wait on those really tropical trees. Now, it is a good time to buy them. Don't put them in the ground yet. That's the no-no. In fact, at a natural farm in Howie in the Hills, he has some really good 3 and 7 gallon winter Mexican avocados that I just saw some pictures of today, that they're going to get ready to upsize that pot. So what that means is if you wait until spring to buy them, you're going to be buying a 15 gallon pot size when you could be buying it in a 7 gallon pot size, and it's literally the same tree. So what I'm doing is I buy my avocados and mangoes right now. I upsize the pot and I let them grow during the winter with protection. And then Easter time, I put them in the ground. So right now, USDA zones 9 through 11, the things that I'm putting in the ground, I'm doing mulberries, every variety. I have 19 varieties of mulberries right now. I'm a freaking mulberry fanatic. Mulberries are great, loquats, figs, peach, pear, plum, nectarine, all the stone fruit. Get all those guys in the ground. So even if they're bare naked, they have no leaves, that's actually the best time to put those stone fruits in the ground because the energy goes down to the roots. So this is a really, really good time to get those in the ground. I'll tell you the worst time to buy and to plant, nurseries tell you, do when they're flowering. because they look so pretty and they put it on their Instagram, they put it online, and here's our Mother's Day sale. You better have those fruit trees in the ground before they're flowering. Otherwise, all the energy is trying to keep those flowers and the fruit alive when it needs to be going to the roots right now. So especially when it's first planted. So right now, again, mulberries, loquats, figs, peach, pear, plum, nectarine, all those things I'm putting in the ground right now. Perfect time of the year to do that. Last thing that I'm doing right now in the food forest is this is food forest cleanup time. It's night, time for winter. I'm doing my last weeding of the year. I'm getting out any of the things that just didn't do well, and I'm moving them to other areas. Really important, take your tropical hibiscus seeds. So you're saving roselle, the Jamaican sorrel, you're saving cranberry hibiscus. Save those seeds. Beloved, don't even try and save them through the winter. It's just not even worth it. Just save the seeds, replant them in the spring, and it's totally fine. And then what was the other one? Oh, tropical spinaches. This is your insurance policy time, guys. Just take note. I have warned you. We are going to get a frost in the winter. So take your tropical spinach cuttings now and just have that little insurance policy. They usually come back, but I'm going with usually on my plants. I mean, I want a backup plan for my backup plan. So right now, for sure, take the longevity spinach, the Suriname spinach, the Brazilian spinach, the Sisu, the Jewels of Opar, there's probably more I just haven't said. The South Sea salad trees, all the what do you call them? South Sea salad, Chief Cobos, and Anti-Lilies. So rock all of those, take cuttings inside, put them in a little protected area. And then if, there's no frost and yours do go there, you've got ones to give away or just propagate more and plant them in other spots. So it is definitely cleanup time for the food forest. So we're putting the food forest to bed in December. We're getting the annual vegetables going, and we're just enjoying the beginning of winter. So that is the end of the introductory part of our Q&A. So I'm going to get to the questions now. So these 7 questions are ones that were either emailed, text, in the comments or whatever from the patrons and the Patreon community. I'll always answer those first, and then I'll give you kind of a couple minute warning that we're wrapping up. And if there's any questions, those can be added into the chat or they can be text or whatever. So first question, what is wrong with my mulberry? It has spots everywhere, looks like a fungus. You are correct. Mulberries right now look like crap. It probably is a fungus. It probably looks terrible. You're probably freaking out and going, my mulberry is dying. It is normal. It is absolutely normal. Mulberries are a deciduous tree. Even in Florida, I mean, even down in Fort Myers, they can lose their leaves in the winter months. So just let it run its course. If it looks a hot mess, it's fine. Let it run its course. Let all the leaves fall off, and it's going to regrow and be absolutely beautiful and stunning in the springtime. Do not worry about your mulberries right now. It is a good time to propagate more. So what I'm doing on some of my trees that are the hottest mess, I'm defoliating them a little bit, and I'm just taking little 6-inch cuttings. This is my measurement tool, as I literally just go cut. So that's my measurement tool. And I'm propagating more. So just the ones that I love the most, ones that I want to trade. When I get design clients, I love bringing them a mulberry tree because they're so easy. You just can't kill the dang things, and they grow all over the continental United States. So super, super easy on mulberry. Let me take a sip of my tea. So next question, how do I know when to chop and drop, or when do I leave it? This is probably someone, I actually can't remember. This is probably someone in the more tropical, subtropical zones. Really good question. This time of year, it basically is going to come down to, is that plant, whether it's a Mexican sunflower or a pigeon pea or any other type of tithionia, is that planted there to protect it from the north or east wind? And if it is protecting a tree, I would leave it and cut it in the springtime. Even if that tree dies back, the biomass is still there. It's still fixing nitrogen in the soil. But around my tender trees, my avocados, my mangoes, my strawberry trees, Soursop, I'm not doing anymore. They're just too finicky here in zone 9A. My sugar apples, my custard apples, Atamoya, Cherimoya, all of those, I'm going to leave those Mexican sunflowers and pigeon peas if it's protecting from the north or the east wind. If it's a south or a west wind, it's probably not going to be a 32-degree night. Those 32-degree nights are almost always north and east winds. So that's kind of how I'm deciding that this time of year, is basically based on that. Question number 3, winter pea planting. Is it best, and this person has sheep, is it best to do one area that's a smaller, really intense area, or diversify? Should I put it around the edge of my perimeter? How should I do this? I'm always about spreading it out. It's just like humans. Like when you're, and they've got like a buffet line or whatever, where is, and when you go up to get seconds, because y'all know we're doing seconds, when you go up to get seconds, you go right to that spot, and sheep are going to be the same way. So if you plant it all in one area, as soon as they find that area, they're going to eat it all the way down to nothing. But as much as you can spread it out, that's going to add biodiversity to your property. That's going to make them go look for it, make them hunt it down. And when they find it over here, that might give a couple-day break for one of the plants on the other side of the property to regrow a little bit. And honestly, I want to spread that nitrogen out. Those peas, the winter peas, are great at fixing nitrogen in the soil. So I would definitely spread it out. A couple ways you can do it. One, you can either do it on your property edge and just do your perimeter and let them go to the edge of the property in the perimeter. I like doing the cross hatching method. So I'll plant a row, I'll skip a row. I'll plant a row, I'll skip a row. And then, a couple weeks later, if I've done those this way, like north and south, that's not north, this is literally up and down, but you get the idea. If you do them north and south, then a couple weeks later, I'm going to go east and west. Does that make sense? So that way you're getting the method, almost like a checkerboard of your planting. So it's giving you a lot more biodiversity, I think, in your soil, which is going to be better for the pollinators, going to be better for the microbial life and the fungal life in the soil. So that would be my thought there. The second part of that question is, can I do a no-till method without a no-till drill? We do have a no-till drill here, so that's usually my method of choice. However, you can do it by either one, just putting some seed down and dumping some compost or soil on top of it and walk away. And as it rains, that soil and the compost is just going to be fine. 2, you can take one of those triangle-shaped hose and you can scrape a line and just put it in that line and run that, and then just put it in. So it's a smaller, you're not tilling, you're just making an incision and then pushing it back together is a way to do it. My favorite way to do it is to send chickens through first, let them eat some of the grass down in the areas that I'm going to be planting, and then I'll go behind them and actually plant the peas when they're done, because they've done all of the work for me. Another way to do it is there's actually Tractor Supply Company has a feed mix now that's technically it's a chicken scratch that has like rye and oats and a winter pea and stuff in it. And what I found is as the chickens eat it, they don't digest all of it for whatever reason, is they plant it. And it just, when I'm moving the tractor forward, that's working really well. I don't get paid by that company, but it's called Cluck & Co. And it's their scratch mix. Now, obviously that's not a feed replacement, it's a supplement. But I found that it is regrowing, and I'm getting a lot of winter peas and field peas and rye and winter wheat and that sort of thing that are growing right behind them, which I think is great. And if you're cheap, I'm cheap, you can go to and just get wild bird seed. I get the red and white bag from Tractor Supply Company. And instead of using it as bird seed, I literally will reseed pastures with it. So my parents did it up in Michigan this last year for deer forage and deer fodder, because it has sunflowers, millet, milo, sorghum, that sort of thing. And it actually works awesome. Somebody says, I've been putting down spent mushroom grow media, breaks down quick. Oh, great suggestion. That's super good. I should do that. That's actually a brilliant idea. So yeah, that was the last bit of the answer to question number 3. Question number 4, when do I plant Napier grass and Mexican sunflower in USDA zones 9 through 11? I plant a couple over the winter, but I never put all my eggs in one basket. If you plant those little 1-gallon Napiers or Mexican sunflower, the Tithionias, and we get a hard frost, they're goners. They're just goners. Their roots aren't going to be established enough. So I plant a few here and there, but I do save a lot of mine till the end of February. So they are going to look a hot mess right now because grass is not growing right now in USDA zones 9 through 11. You'll get a little bit, but not a whole lot. So just really lightly fertilize them just to keep them, alive and going through the winter. Because as you water them, they're going to be nutrient deficient like crazy. So, once a month, foliar spray with sea kelp or fish emulsion would be great on those. But I wait for a lot of that come winter time. And question number 5, which is really connected to this. Somebody saw a post that I was making about this new to me called daisy tree. It's Montanoia grandifolia is the name. So they grow these at the Bott Gardens. It is a distant cousin of the Mexican sunflower. And so the major difference is, one is it does fix slightly less atmospheric nitrogen into the soil, but y'all, get this. The flowers, instead of yellow or orange, they look like a daisy. They're white petals, gorgeous, really big flowers, yellow center. So you get that beautiful white flower. And the best part about it, I kid you not, they smell like chocolate chip freaking cookies. I mean, I literally, when I walked past it, I was like, somebody must be cooking in the bakery at Gardens, because it literally smells like cookie dough, like chocolate chip cookies, unreal. And then I'm walking by the plant and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I pulled the flower down, really does smell like chocolate chip cookies. Like, how much better does that get than planting a daisy that gets 12 feet tall, just like a Mexican sunflower, and it smells like freaking cookies? Like, y'all, I'm a foodie. That's why I garden. I like to eat, so I'm all about that. Where do you get them? Great question. CodyCoFarm.com. They have them $15 for a plant start. And literally, it's going to be small, but just like a Mexican sunflower, they grow so fast. I'm talking 12, 17 feet tall in one growing season. So they are only hardy in USDA zones 9 through 11. But y'all, this is probably going to be my new favorite biomass accumulator for the food forest. I'm actually up by our kitchen garden. We have this really pretty white house up there and a white picket fence. And I want to plant this all the way along the white picket fence because I think it's just going to look fantastic. And honestly, it smells like cookies. Y'all, what the heck are we doing with our lives right now? Okay, question number 6. Are you going to be recording or broadcasting the silvopasture demo at the Permaculture Convergence? The answer is maybe. And honestly, the only reason is it's at Wonderfield Farm. And because it is a live demo, I'm not going to be inside. And so it's going to depend on how windy it is. Secondly, if I can find a volunteer there that is willing to hold my phone to do a live broadcast, because I'm not going to set up camera equipment because there are 300 people at Convergence, so it's a pretty big crowd. So I'm not going to set up cameras and lights and that sort of thing there. So maybe. If I do, I'll try and get a little bit of notice that afternoon that I'll do it as a live, but it'll be live either on Instagram or TikTok. I haven't decided that yet. And the link of those is in the link tree in the bio. Question number 7, and this is the last question. So if there are other questions, those can be added into the comments, and I'll get to those questions right after answering this last question. So again, any questions, you can add those into the comments. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Is question 7, what is your favorite winter reading for permaculturists, beginning gardeners, and organic farmers? So show and tell time. So if you're wanting a book that is more of a like short stories, it's not fiction, but it's just like short stories, indigenous wisdom. One of my favorites right now is Braiding Sweetgrass. I get no kickback from any of these, but I really loved Braiding Sweetgrass. I listened to this twice as an audiobook. There's some things in there that I agree with. So Robin Wall Kimmerer is a scientist. She's a professor. She's a member of the First Nations, Native American tribe. And she writes from the anthropological history of her people and connects it to plants. And I just thought it was such an interesting read. And so I've literally read it once and I've listened to it twice because it was just so enjoyable. So it's like if you're going on a road trip over the holidays, you're going up to see family, down to see family somewhere, braiding sweetgrass. That's the one that I would do. Second one for permaculture reading. If you are new to the chicken tractor world, I really, really enjoyed this one. Joel Salatin actually did the recommendation stuff on the back and the forward. So this one is by Andy Lee and Patricia Foreman. So I thought this was a really good summary with some pictures, with some diagrams. I write and highlight in all of my books. So if you are thinking about getting chickens, this one I think was a really good one. If you are not a book in hand reader and you're more of a visual person, probably the visual source. Oh, Justin Rhodes, Abundant Permaculture. His chicken course is fantastic. So I would just take that course. He did a little video that I think is even online called Permaculture Chickens. That was things that you live and you learn that, he's changed or whatever since then. But this one right here, I think is a really good one if you're getting started just using the chicken tractor system. It goes through how to set up the coop, why you want to rotate it, how do you rotate them on pastures, how do you integrate the birds with other animals, and even like chicken processing and how do you hatch chickens. So it really does go through kind of an A to Z in a pretty cool way. Next one, I got this one at a store called Wild Birds Unlimited. So if you are wanting to just start being a bird nerd and be bird watching, this is For the Birds by Annie Shamos, Mary Shamos, and Jeannie Krolick. And this one I think is neat because the way it's set up is by month. So when you go to the month of January, it gives you a list of birds that you should be looking for, types of bird seed that you should be putting out that month, things that you should be doing to attract the wild songbirds, give you some bird feeding tips and that sort of thing. And it recommends like kids projects as well, which I think is a really fun way to do it. So even as an educator, I use this when I taught at a K through 12 private school for many, many years. So I would do bird feeders outside of elementary classrooms so the kids could be watching and learning and growing and that sort of thing. So For the Birds, if you're looking at just a really easy way to start wild songbird feeding and have it be enjoyable and kind of interactive as you go. The last one, last but not least, I'll be honest with you, I saw this book like 1,100 times on my dang Instagram feed, and I thought it was a gimmick. I was like, there is no way. Like, I'm not buying a book on Instagram. Somebody gave it to me as a gift. And I've done 2 master herbalist certifications. I'm a big nerd. I mean, I study like the science, the abstracts. I mean, I love hippie science, but I love me some real science. I mean, let's get into the chemical constituents and the polyphenols and I love all of the stuff. So when I saw this on the internet, I was like, there's no way this is going to be good. And honest to God, it's probably better than some of the herbalist books that I was told to get when I did my master herbalist certification. So this was a surprise to me. So what I like about it is it does go through, it gives you, the plants in alphabetical order, the things that those plants may be used for. And you can even look stuff up in the back like thyroid health or, whatever it is, or warts, and it'll give you some recommendations of plants that could be used. This is by Dr. Nicole Apelion and Claude Davis. And so this one I literally just got online. And again, I thought it was a joke. I think it was like askaprepper.com or something is where I got it from. And I was like, there's no way it's going to be good. I was so pleasantly surprised. I was just blown away by that one in general. Angie, hey, how are you? Says, I have that book. I fell for the marketing and I like it too. I know it was really good. And it's I think one of the only times, I can't think of another time that I bought a book on the internet that was from an ad that I've actually enjoyed. Every other one, I'm like, this was stinking written by AI. Like, it's just so dumb, so just a little ridiculous. So I don't see any more questions that are here in the chat. So this will be the end of the Q&A for this month. So this will be posted in YouTube in a couple hours. It'll have to render and do its thing. And then if you have additional questions, those can be asked in the comments. So again, thank you so much to the patrons and the Patreon community. Your support is what allows these to be available. Your questions are always so good, so well thought out, and just They always get me thinking of what I need to be doing, what needs to be done better, and the why behind all of this stuff. So, Patreon community, thank you so much. If you are not in the Patreon community and you're interested just to see what we're doing, there is a link for that in the link tree in the bio. Or you can go to patreon.com/permaculturefx and look it up there. So every week we do a couple offerings, permaculture, food forest, gardening, PDFs, classes that are longer classes, not just a short 10-minute, and a lot of really fun exclusive content that is on there. So hopefully this is enjoyable to you. As always, be safe. Enjoy the garden this time of year. I know that it's so busy for many, but as much as you're able to take some time, get outside in the garden, grab that cup of hot coffee or hot tea, or if it's in the evening, a little glass of old grapes doesn't hurt either. Walk around the garden and enjoy yourself. So whatever holidays that you are celebrating this time of year, many blessings to you, your family, and your loved ones. And as always, have fun, and I will see you in the garden.